The rain had been falling for 3 days straight, turning the normally peaceful creek that ran through Willow Valley into a raging torrent. By the third night, the water had risen so high it had breached its banks and was flooding the low-lying areas where the poorest families lived in their small, hastily built cabins. Lucas Hammond stood on his covered porch, lantern in hand, watching the floodwaters creep closer to his ranch house, which sat on higher ground. He was 34 years old, a successful rancher with dark hair and wearing a brown shirt and jeans. He'd built his fortune through hard work and smart decisions, and his ranch was one of the most prosperous in the territory. But prosperity meant nothing when he looked out at the devastation below. He could see lights from the struggling cabins, could imagine the families huddled inside as water rose around them. As a man of means, Lucas felt a responsibility to help, even though most people would say those poor families weren't his concern. "Boss, we should bring the remaining cattle to the high pasture," his foreman called from the barn. "Do it," Lucas replied, "and then get all the hands together. We're going down to help with evacuations." "In this weather?" "Especially in this weather. People are going to die if we don't." Lucas was preparing to head out when he saw something that made his blood run cold. A small cabin about a quarter-mile away, barely visible through the rain, one he'd noticed before because it was so run down it seemed like it might collapse in a strong wind, was now surrounded by water that was clearly still rising. And in the doorway, illuminated by the warm light inside, he could see a woman standing with children around her. She was looking toward his ranch house, toward the lights on the hill, like she was trying to decide something. Lucas didn't hesitate. He grabbed a rope, called for 2 of his strongest horses, and headed down toward the cabin, the water already up to his horse's knees. As he got closer, he could see the situation more clearly. The woman was young, maybe late 20s, with dark hair plastered to her face from rain. She wore a simple purple dress that was soaked through, and she held a baby in her arms, maybe 6 months old. 3 other children huddled behind her, ranging in age from about 3 to 7 years old, all of them thin and clearly frightened. The water was already lapping at the doorway. In another hour, maybe less, the cabin would be completely flooded. Lucas rode as close as he could and called out, "Ma'am, you need to evacuate now. This cabin won't hold." The woman looked at him with desperate eyes, and Lucas could see she'd been crying. She was shaking from cold or fear or both. "Sir," she called back, her voice barely audible over the rain. "Please, I know I have no right to ask, but please, take my children. Get them to safety. I can't save them all by myself. Please, just take them." Lucas felt his chest tighten. "Ma'am, I'm not leaving you behind." "There's no room," the woman said, tears streaming down her face. "You can't carry all of us, not through this water." "But the children, please." "Save my children. I'm begging you." "What's your name?" Lucas called out. Anna Whitfield." "Anna, I'm Lucas Hammond. I own the ranch on the hill, and I'm telling you right now, I'm not taking your children without you. We're all getting out of here together." "But you can't possibly—" "Watch me," Lucas said firmly. He assessed the situation quickly. The water was rising fast, but his horses were strong. He could do this, but he needed to be smart about it. "Anna, here's what's going to happen," Lucas called out. "I'm going to bring the horses as close as possible. You're going to hand me the baby first. Then we'll get the other children mounted. You'll ride with me and hold the baby. The older children can hold on to each other on the second horse. It'll be tight, but we can make it." "The water's too high," Anna protested, fear in her voice. "Then we'd better hurry," Lucas replied. He maneuvered his horses as close to the doorway as he could, the water now up to the animals' chests. "Hand me the baby!" he shouted. Anna hesitated for only a moment, then carefully passed him the infant. Lucas tucked the baby securely inside his coat, protecting the child from the rain. "Now the next one?" The 3-year-old came next, a little girl with dark braids who clung to Lucas's neck. Then the 5-year-old boy, shaking but trying to be brave. Then the 7-year-old girl, who helped position her younger siblings on the second horse. "Your turn," Lucas called to Anna. "I can't reach." The water had risen even in the few minutes they'd been working. Anna was now standing in water up to her knees inside the cabin, and the gap between the doorway and Lucas's horse had grown. "You have to jump," Lucas said. "I'll catch you." Anna looked at her children, at the precious lives depending on her, and she gathered her courage. She jumped, and Lucas caught her with his free arm, pulling her up onto his horse in front of him. "Hold on tight," Lucas commanded. He took the baby from his coat and placed the infant in Anna's arms, then wrapped one arm around her waist to keep her secure. The journey back to the ranch was treacherous. The horses struggled against the current, and several times Lucas thought they might be swept away. But the animals were strong and well-trained, and Lucas was an experienced rider. The water swirled around them, debris floating past, the rain still pouring down. Anna held the baby against her chest, protecting the infant from the elements while Lucas kept his arm firm around her waist. Behind them, the three children clung to each other on the second horse, the 7-year-old showing remarkable courage in helping her younger siblings stay mounted. "Almost there!" Lucas shouted over the roar of water and rain. "Just hold on!" The horses' hooves finally found purchase on solid ground, and they climbed up the hill toward the ranch house. When they finally reached the high ground, Lucas's foreman and several hands were waiting with blankets and assistance. "Get them inside," Lucas ordered. "Hot food, dry clothes, warm beds." Anna was shaking violently now, the adrenaline wearing off and the reality of hypothermia setting in. Lucas carried her himself into the ranch house, the children following close behind, shepherded by concerned ranch hands. His housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, immediately took charge, ushering the children toward the kitchen for hot soup and getting Anna wrapped in blankets by the large fireplace in the main room. "The children," Anna kept saying through chattering teeth. "Are they—" "They're fine," Lucas assured her, kneeling beside her chair. "All 4 of them are safe. Mrs. Chen is feeding them right now. Listen, you can hear them talking in the kitchen." Anna closed her eyes, tears leaking out. "Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me. Thank you for taking all of us." Most men wouldn't have. Most men would have said there wasn't room, that I was asking too much. "Did you really think I'd separate a mother from her children?" Lucas asked gently, removing his wet coat. Anna opened her eyes and looked at him. "My husband died 6 months ago. Mining accident. Left us with nothing but debts. I've been trying to work, trying to keep us fed, but I can barely make enough for food, let alone rent or proper shelter. That cabin, it was all I could afford. I knew it was dangerous, but I had nowhere else to go." Her voice cracked. "I was going to ask you to take the children to an orphanage. Give them up so they'd at least have food and shelter. But I couldn't bear to lose them. They're all I have left. So I stood in that doorway, and I begged you to save them, even if it meant leaving me behind." Lucas felt something shift in his chest. He looked at this woman who'd been willing to sacrifice everything for her children, who'd stood in a flooding cabin and begged a stranger to save them even if it meant being left behind herself. "Anna," Lucas said quietly, "what if I told you there was another option?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if you and your children stayed here? Not as guests temporarily, but permanently. This ranch is huge. I have more space than one man could ever use. The children could grow up here, safe and fed. You could help Mrs. Chen with the house, or work in whatever capacity you wanted. You'd all be part of the household." Anna stared at him, confusion and hope warring in her expression. "You're offering us charity?" "I'm offering you an opportunity," Lucas corrected. "And before you get proud and refuse, think about what's best for those 4 children eating soup in my kitchen right now. Think about what you want their lives to look like." Anna was quiet for a long time, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do this? You don't know us. You don't owe us anything." "Because I can," Lucas said simply. "Because I have the means to help, and you need help. Because watching you hand me that baby, trusting a complete stranger because you loved your children more than your own life, that showed me more about your character than years of acquaintance could have." He leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to be grateful or indebted. I'm offering you and your children a chance at a better life. What you do with that chance is up to you." Anna looked toward the kitchen where she could hear her children's voices, sounding happier than they had in months. The 3-year-old was giggling at something Mrs. Chen had said. The baby was cooing contentedly. She thought about the constant fear of the past 6 months, the desperation, the hunger, the cold nights in that terrible cabin. And she thought about this stranger who'd ridden through a flood to save not just her children, but her too. Who'd said, "I'll take you too," when she'd expected nothing for herself. Who was now offering them not just temporary shelter, but a permanent home. "Yes," Anna whispered. "Yes, we'll stay. Thank you." Over the following weeks, as the floodwaters receded and the valley began to recover, Anna and her children settled into life at the Hammond Ranch. The transformation was remarkable. The children, who'd been thin and listless from malnutrition, began to fill out with regular meals. Their laughter filled the previously quiet house, and Lucas found himself coming home each evening eager to hear about their day. The baby, whose name was Thomas, began to crawl and then walk, his first steps taken in the great room under Lucas's watchful eye. The 3-year-old, Sarah, became attached to the ranch dogs and followed Lucas everywhere when he worked near the house. The 5-year-old, James, showed an interest in the horses and began learning to ride. And the 7-year-old, Elizabeth, revealed herself to be remarkably intelligent, devouring every book in Lucas's library. Anna proved to be far more than just a housekeeper. She was intelligent and capable, with ideas for improving ranch operations that Lucas found invaluable. She could read and write, rare for women of her circumstance, and took over managing the ranch's correspondence and accounts, which had been in chaos. "Where did you learn all this?" Lucas asked one evening as they reviewed the books together, the children asleep upstairs. "My father was a school teacher," Anna explained. "He believed girls should be educated as well as boys. He taught me everything: mathematics, literature, history, even basic bookkeeping. My mother thought it was foolish, that it would make me unmarriageable, but my father insisted." "Your father was a wise man," Lucas said. "He died when I was 16. My mother married me off quickly after that to the first man who'd take me, my late husband. He wasn't a bad man, but he didn't value education. Thought my reading was a waste of time." Anna's voice grew soft. "After he died, I was grateful for what my father taught me. It's the only reason I could find any work at all." Lucas reached across the table and took her hand. "Your father would be proud of what you've done. How you've kept your family together against impossible odds." Anna looked at their joined hands, then up at Lucas's face. "I couldn't have done it without you. You gave us more than shelter, Lucas. You gave us hope." But more than her practical contributions, Anna brought life to Lucas's home. She brought conversation and warmth, challenged his thinking, and made him laugh in ways he hadn't in years. She had strong opinions on everything from politics to the best way to train horses, and she wasn't afraid to disagree with him. Lucas found himself falling in love with this strong, resilient woman who'd survived so much. He loved the way she sang while she worked, the way she told stories to her children at bedtime, the way she'd taken to ranch life like she'd been born to it. He loved her fierce protectiveness of her children and her quiet dignity in the face of hardship. And Anna found herself falling for this man who'd seen her at her lowest and offered dignity instead of pity, partnership instead of charity. She loved his kindness to her children, the way he'd naturally taken on the role of father figure without ever demanding it. She loved his integrity, his dry sense of humor, and the way he treated her as an equal partner despite the circumstances of their meeting. 6 months after the flood, Lucas proposed to Anna properly, in the parlor where he'd first promised her family a home. He'd sent the children to Mrs. Chen for the evening, wanting this moment to be private. "Anna, I need to talk to you about something," Lucas said, and Anna could hear the nervousness in his voice. "Is something wrong?" Anna asked, concern crossing her face. "No, nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually. That's what I want to talk about." Lucas took her hands in his. "When I rode down to that cabin 6 months ago, I thought I was just doing the right thing, saving people who needed help. But somewhere between that first night and now, something changed." "What changed?" Anna asked softly. "You stopped being someone I was helping and became someone I couldn't imagine my life without. You and your children, you're my family already. But I'd like to make it official." Anna's eyes widened. "Lucas, I'm asking you to marry me," Lucas said. "Not because of obligation or gratitude, not because it's practical or convenient, but because I'm in love with you, Anna. I love your strength and your intelligence and your fierce love for your children. I love the way you've brought life to this house. I love spending my evenings talking with you, working beside you, building something together. Tears streamed down Anna's face. When I stood in that doorway begging you to save my children, I never imagined this is where we'd end up. Is that a yes? Lucas asked, hope and anxiety mixing in his expression. Yes, Anna said, laughing through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Not because you saved us, though you did, but because you gave us more than rescue. You gave us a home, dignity, and partnership. And somewhere along the way, I fell completely in love with you. Lucas pulled her close and kissed her, and it felt like coming home. They married in a simple ceremony with the children as witnesses, the baby Thomas now a toddler taking his first wobbly steps. Elizabeth stood as Anna's maid of honor, beaming with pride. Sarah and James scattered wildflowers, and Mrs. Chen cried happy tears throughout the entire ceremony. The Hammond family grew over the years, 3 more children born over the years, siblings to Anna's original 4. The ranch prospered under their joint management, becoming known not just for its success, but for the Hammond family's generosity to those in need. They built better housing for struggling families in the valley, ensuring no one would face the desperation Anna had known. They created job programs for widows and single mothers, giving them opportunities to support their families with dignity. And they never forgot what it meant to be desperate, to stand in a doorway and beg for help. Lucas and Anna became known throughout the territory as a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine love. They ran the ranch together, making all major decisions jointly, and their children grew up seeing marriage as true partnership rather than ownership. Elizabeth, the oldest, became a teacher like her grandfather, opening a school that educated girls as well as boys. James took over much of the ranch's horse breeding program. Sarah became a veterinarian, one of the first women in the territory to do so. Thomas, the baby Lucas had first held inside his coat, became a doctor who treated patients regardless of their ability to pay. The 3 children born after the marriage followed their own paths, all of them carrying forward the values their parents had instilled, that wealth comes with responsibility, that helping others isn't charity but basic human decency, and that families are built through love and choice rather than just blood. Years later, when people would ask how they met, Lucas would tell the story honestly, never embarrassed by the dramatic circumstances. She stood in a flooding cabin and asked me to save her children, willing to sacrifice herself if necessary. I told her I'd take them all. That's not heroism. That's just basic human decency. And Anna would add, with tears in her eyes even decades later, he said, I'll take you too, when I expected nothing for myself. When I'd resigned myself to losing everything just to save my children, he insisted on saving all of us. That changed everything. Not just our circumstances, but how I understood what it meant to be valued. Their story reminded everyone who heard it that true character is revealed in crisis, that families are built through choice and commitment rather than just circumstance, that sometimes the best thing you can do with wealth and resources is share them with those who need them most, and that love found in the most desperate circumstances can become the strongest foundation of all. The old cabin where they'd met was eventually washed away completely by subsequent floods. But Lucas and Anna would ride out to where it had stood, pointing out the spot to their children and grandchildren, telling them the story of the night everything changed. That's where I almost lost everything, Anna would say. That's where I found everything, Lucas would add, and their children would understand that sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead directly to the best, that asking for help takes courage, and that saying yes to helping others, really helping, not halfway but completely, can transform multiple lives forever. If this story reminded you that helping others completely rather than halfway can change everything, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe for more stories about choosing compassion over convenience, building families through love and commitment, and using resources to lift others up rather than just ourselves. Leave a comment about a time someone helped you when you needed it most, or about choosing to help others despite the cost or inconvenience. Together we believe in human dignity, in using our blessings to bless others, in the truth that we're all responsible for each other, and in the power of saying yes when others need us most.